Okay. Hello, welcome back to my channel, where as well as doing a Doctor Who marathon from the very beginning, I am also going some way to recapturing my inner nerd and trying to reconnect with my former self. And that includes, for the last month or so, going through all of the new stuff we've had for the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who. Now, as of recording last night, we just had the final of the 3 60th anniversary specials. The Giggle. Last week I sort of like mulled over and percolated, digested my thoughts on Wild Blue Yonder the week before the Star Beast. So let's get into The Giggle. Now, there's a lot to talk about with this episode, and paradoxically it doesn't feel like there's enough in it to talk about. I know that they are a trilogy of 60th anniversary specials. That's how they were marketed, it's how they're known. And last week I said in my Wild Blue Yonder video that I have to reframe how I'm thinking about these. If I think of them as 60th anniversary specials, then I think I'm only going to be disappointed. They're not doing that good a job of celebrating 60 years of Doctor Who. They're basically 3 Doctor Who specials that coincide with the 60th anniversary. They're not 60th anniversary specials. And because I've really enjoyed the Star Beast and Wild Blue Yonder more than I thought I would, because I went into the whole this whole run of episodes, this whole mini-series, with reservations, not having been that big a fan of either the first Russell T Davies era and in particular the 10th Doctor's era. Yeah, I wasn't sure. So the Star Beast won me over in a way that I wasn't expecting. Wild Blue Yonder continued that streak. And I decided, expecting big, epic anniversary specialness from The Giggle would only leave me disappointed. So I just thought, this is going to be another strong episode of Doctor Who, but it's probably not going to be that special for an anniversary. And even though I went in thinking that, I still am disappointed. I think The Giggle is definitely underwhelming as a 60th anniversary special, but even going in not expecting that, just wanting like a strong episode of Doctor Who continuing the streak of the Star Beast and Wild Blue Yonder, I still don't think it stands up. I think it doesn't stick the landing, and I think what partly why I'm disappointed is because I feel like I should have known better. Like, my relationship with the Russell T Davies era, aside from series 1 actually, which I think like the Christopher Eccleston series is incredibly strong, and I think the finale there, which once upon a time, the parting of the ways, felt like the biggest episode of Doctor Who there'd ever been. And then I know that there was this sort of like I guess like trying to up that every year, and I didn't respond to that because I always felt like the first part of the Russell T Davies finales were always really strong, and then they could never really live up to it and sort of like, yeah, stick the landing as well as I would have liked. So in particular the series 3 finale, which I thought was a mess. But really, and I know that it's considered a 3-parter these days. Like Utopia always felt to me a little bit like Frontier in Space and Planet of the Daleks, you know, linked but not the same stories. Now though, it is considered a 3-parter, and that first part, Utopia, I think is really strong, and then Sound of Drums and The Last of the Time Lords doesn't work for me at all. With The Stolen Earth, I thought The Stolen Earth was really strong, and then Journey's End doesn't quite live up to it. Now, Star Beast and Wild Blue Yonder did feel like very, very strong episodes of Doctor Who, and that kind of lulled me into a false sense of security, whereby in my head I thought, well, you know, even if it's not going to be that great a celebration of 60 years of Doctor Who, which I still don't think any of them are. It will still at least hopefully like be up to the standard of the Star Beast and Wild Blue Yonder. I thought this is going to be like, if that was the season opener in the Star Beast and then the sort of like chamber piece in the middle for Wild Blue Yonder, this will be like the finale. And you know what? I don't think it even works as a satisfying finale. We'll get to the bigeneration because I've got notes on that too. But I just think its biggest problem is that it brings the Toymaker back, which isn't a problem in and of itself, even though I didn't really care for the Celestial Toymaker initial story. I thought it's Hartnell's weakest one. But there is a lot of mileage in the Toymaker himself. So bringing the Toymaker back wasn't necessarily an obstacle for me enjoying this episode. And it does make a big deal about his powers. So the scene where he runs amok in the unit tower to spice up your life is quite a good use, actually, of what Russell T Davies does sometimes, which is that use of pop music. I hated Here Come the Drums in The Sound of Drums. Really didn't like that. Here, it works a lot better. And his running rings around them so easily and being this sort of like almost godlike villain is set up like the stakes are incredibly high. And then he's defeated with a game of catch. Doesn't work. Rubbish. And the reason for that is because what's interesting to Russell T Davies isn't necessarily the Toymaker. What's interesting to Russell T Davies becomes the bigeneration, and that's given over. I think it's at least 10 minutes. It might be 15. The end of the episode, and I don't think you can set the Toymaker up to be that omnipotent and that powerful a foe and defeat him that easily. It's not. I don't like it. Why do it? And I think because of that, it then ends so weakly that it doesn't really pay off this whole trilogy, this whole mini-series. And so I don't feel like the whole thing was as justified as it felt like it was going to be. So like the explanation for the Doctor's face coming back, don't buy it. I wish that there was something a little bit more substantial there. I wish there was a better explanation to the mystery, if you like. Really glad that Donna got her memories back and didn't die, and it was nice to see Catherine Tate again. David Tennant's 14th Doctor is, in my opinion, way better than his 10th. I still detect like quite a gulf in how he performs both of them. And obviously Ncuti Gatwa was, like, I thought he was phenomenal from the start. But the easy defeat of the Toymaker just kind of makes it all feel like a really poor excuse. And I wish I didn't feel like that, because that was my biggest worry going in, that this would all just like there wouldn't be as good, like a good enough reason to bring David Tennant and Catherine Tate back. Now, the reason that David Tennant and Catherine Tate are back is because they all wanted to come back and Russell T Davies wanted to work with them again, which is as good a reason as any, I suppose. But in story terms, I'm not sure that enough work was put into to justify it. And that is where I think these specials were going to live or die for me. I feel like Ncuti Gatwa coming in and assuming command of the show, he does that through sheer force of personality, and it's really fun watching him sort of like, in essence, to use a cliche, which I don't like doing, like burst onto the screen, like burst into the show and just sort of like grab it with both hands. However, for that sort of like excitement for a new Doctor to be coming in, part of Regeneration is that I think you have to lose the Doctor before. And so having this bigeneration, and the Toymaker being there is as good a reason as any, because let's face it, the Toymaker is essentially magic. I wouldn't have minded the bigeneration if what it meant was that eventually they had to sort of like reform. And while we knew it was always going to be Ncuti going forward, there could have been some drama in there. The Doctor like merging again wouldn't know which one would come to the forefront, and that would have been a great drama, certainly for the Doctor with that face, who previously didn't want to go, but sort of like accepting that he might when he merges back with the new Doctor. I think that would have been really lovely. Now, when fans do that and they say, I think this would have been better, they're talking about one of entertainment's foremost writers and probably one of the most celebrated creative minds of this century. So I'm not in any way saying I can do better than Russell T Davies. I demonstrably cannot. The man is a great writer. He is in charge of the show. He makes these decisions. He can do as he sees fit. I was watching it and just thought he could have done, not me, he could have done so much more with that. Because I do feel when the Doctor changes, you have to lose the previous one. It's all part of it. I don't much enjoy that there are now two Doctors knocking about. One, it feels like a little bit of a repeat of the Meta Crisis. And I know that one ended up in a parallel universe, but my point is, again, why can't you just let David Tennant go? It feels like the show itself has a favourite Doctor, and it shouldn't. I know everybody has a favourite Doctor. I've got a favourite Doctor, and I know that David Tennant is many people's favourite Doctor. The show itself shouldn't, and it kind of feels like it does, which kind of has a... It's not like... It doesn't thumb its nose at the other Doctors as a result, but it kind of feels like they're not as well regarded by the show itself that we're watching. Now, if the show agrees with you and David Tennant is your favourite Doctor, you're getting affirmation from the show kind of going, yeah, he's the best. But please do understand how unfair that is for the other Doctors. They haven't had the same treatment. I know that Tom Baker came back as the curator, which could have been tied in. I don't mean that he should have shown up as the curator, but the fact of the matter is that what if the 14th Doctor is where this begins, where future regenerations visit older faces? I'd have bought that. It also would have been some connective tissue with the previous anniversary and made this feel a bit more like an anniversary. Now, as anniversary specials, I've already said before, Star Beast and Wild Blue Yonder fell short. But as episodes, they were great. They were really good episodes of Doctor Who. The Giggle, again, falls short of being a 60th anniversary special, but I also think it stumbles and falls a little bit short as an episode. Now, did I fundamentally dislike it from start to finish? Absolutely not. I did not. And in fact, the first 2/3, where he's up against the Toymaker, because the Toymaker is set up in this episode, I think, very, very well. The first 2/3 of that are some really good stuff. Stooky Sue, the scene between Donna and Stooky Sue, is, I think, absolute solid gold the whole way through. That scene is just, it's perfect. It's the image of Stooky Sue, the face emerging from the shadows, is like nightmare fuel, potentially, for the right viewer. And then Donna doesn't get scared. Donna just beats up Stooky Sue. And it's a really good distillation of Donna's character, and it's a fantastic spooky image. The same with the marionette Doctor. The Toymaker being sort of like so... I don't want to use the word godlike again, but you know what I mean? Sort of like, all powerful. It really makes the stakes feel high. Now, if you squint a little bit, you can kind of overlook the fact that, okay, so what's the game in making the human race turn against each other like this? That was never really the Toymaker's MO. but it does make for like a backdrop of chaos, and it also means that then like there's there's an element of like that chaos having to be policed, which is where Unit comes in, and it's nice to see Kate again, who I think with the 14th Doctor means that she's now surpassed the amount of Doctors that the Brigadier met, which is kind of nice. I like Mel coming back. I mentioned in last week's Wild Blue Yonder video that it'd be really interesting to see how Mel is integrated. Like there's a lovely little fan service, and yeah, okay, is that it's not enough before anybody says, oh, so there is fan service. It's still not enough to qualify as a massively satisfying anniversary experience. But to hear Sabalom Glitz name dropped is really fun. And again later on, Mavic Chen and the Gods of Ragnarok, when Ncuti drops them, I like little references like that. And I think Bonnie Langford does an incredible job as this new Mel. And Tennant plays meeting her again, just really lovely, really nice. As well, within that whole Unit scene, you've got what I really like is when Kate has the band taken off and actually just directs a lot of a similar sort of like short-sighted, uneducated viewpoints towards Shirley that a lot of people did after the Star Beast aired. Like, very prescient, because obviously all that was filmed way before the Star Beast aired. Donna's job offer of Unit, when her sort of like 120 with 5 weeks holiday, loved it. The idea of that Giggle permeating is a really good idea, and then the chaos of when the Toymaker is let loose to spice up your life. Normally the sort of thing that might make me cringe, but it's done really well here. So like I said, that first 2/3, I thought we're on to a really strong miniseries, a really strong trilogy of Doctor Who. And then the Toymaker is defeated like that, because I know Rusty Davies has got more important things he wants to sort out, but it's to the detriment of the story, and as a result the whole trilogy, because they are marketed as like, this is the 60th anniversary is these 3 specials, so they kind of do come as an entity, and they kind of end on a bit of a damp squib, which is such a shame when I think how strong and fantastic Ncuti is. So I have again this sort of like weird cognitive dissonance where I don't think the Giggle is like, all right, it's not bad. I don't dislike it. I think the first 2/3, like I've said, they build really well. They're structured really nicely. There's plenty of great stuff in there, and then it's that final third. But even in the final third, you've got Ncuti Gatwa as the new Doctor, and he's great. And I just, that cognitive dissonance comes in there. I think even though Ncuti Gatwa is great, I would have liked it to have just been him. If that was when the regeneration happened, just have a traditional regeneration, 14 into 15. And actually the words that the Doctor says before the bigeneration, he says Allons-y, and that's just again a lovely, while it would have been annoying that we still didn't get a satisfying explanation for why that face came back, I still think had 14 changed into 15 with the words Allons-y, that would have been a lovely sort of flip from when the 10th Doctor regenerated and saying, I don't want to go. I would have really like gone, that like the 14th Doctor is so much more mature than the 10th. And then Gatwa could have come along, defeated the Toymaker, had some great little scenes with Donna and Mel and Kate, and then gone off in his TARDIS. I think I would have preferred that a lot more, because Ncuti shows it's not just potential anymore. Beforehand, when he was cast, Ncuti Gatwa, I think he's going to be great. I'm familiar with Ncuti Gatwa, and his casting as the Doctor excited me. Just the idea of it. So he had the potential to be one of the best, and it doesn't exist as potential anymore. We've seen him in action, and while it's early days, and I honestly do still think, having seen the evidence, that he could be one of the best as we go on. So having already seen him in action and like really responded positively and gone, this man is excellent casting as the Doctor. It would have been fine for me for him to have carried that last third. And because of that, it makes me think I wish he had. The bigeneration isn't necessarily a massive problem to me. Like I said, if they'd have ended up merging again, that would have been... I would have preferred that. It's this idea of the predecessor hanging around because it dilutes the Doctor, I think. And it's not... I know that as fans, we tend to get a little bit... we champion Doctor Who as the show that's all about change, and then when change comes along, we don't much care for it. I know that that's a stereotype, but sometimes the show will do things that will annoy us, and I know that there's plenty of people out there that loved the bigeneration. I didn't, and conversely, I see some people wondering how you can be okay with the Timeless Child and not with the bigeneration. So the Timeless Child, in my opinion, I don't think changes the show going forward. We'll still be following the Doctor as we always have. It just sort of like muddies the backstory. But the Doctor's backstory isn't what's the most important thing about Doctor Who. But the bigeneration seems to alter everything. But I don't know. I don't feel like the Timeless Child interferes with the fabric of the show in the same way that the bigeneration does. Now, I don't think the bigeneration is going to happen every single time now. I wish it hadn't happened at all. I feel like with Ncuti's, there's the Christmas special, and then with Ncuti's first season, watching those, knowing that the 14th Doctor is also still around, like I said, it does feel like the Doctor is diluted a bit. If 14 had just changed into 15, it would have been like, okay, that's the Doctor. The Doctor. Now Ncuti is only a Doctor. And obviously in the real world, whoever assumes the role of the Doctor is always a Doctor. It's one of 15, 16, 17, however many you want to, Joe Martin and John Hurt. If you want to include Peter Cushing, you can. The person playing the Doctor is always a Doctor. But in the show, they are the Doctor. And now, the 15th Doctor isn't the Doctor. The 15th Doctor is a Doctor. So last night I watched the episode and then immediately watched the video commentary afterwards, partly because I was intrigued. I quite enjoyed the insights from the Starbeast video commentary, but also I watched it sort of like a little bit like, well, let's see him explain himself then, shall we? Let's see him explain himself. And I didn't go in sort of like that confrontationally, but there was an element of that in the back of my head. And when Russell T Davies did explain his reasons for doing it and what have you, I still didn't buy them. I respect his decision. He's the showrunner. It's not like the man can't write. He can write. Like, he's one of the best writers we've got. I just wish that he'd sometimes, because he's very impulsive. So like he was talking about in that video commentary about how he'd put Stephen in there as well, but dressed as a cow. And like when he says it out loud, it's a balmy idea, and it's almost like he realised then and didn't do it. And I just think that like one more step, maybe he'd have like been like, oh, the bigeneration, yeah. It kind of does cheapen the Doctor going forward because he's just one of several. He's not the Doctor anymore. There's two TARDISes out there. The 14th Doctor afterwards took Mel to New York. He took Rose to, I think they say Mars. So when Mel comes back in the next season and is interacting with Ncuti's Doctor again, is she going to be like, oh yeah, me and the other one are still like? I don't. It really complicates things in a kind of like soapy way that I don't much care for. It's not to say that I'm going to now not enjoy Doctor Who going forward, because I probably am. Like, there's always going to be episodes I love, episodes I've got problems with. And I think I'm going to really enjoy watching Ncuti find his Doctor as he goes on, because what an entrance he had in the Giggle. Like, I can't stress enough, while I might have problems with the Giggle, Ncuti Gatwa was not one of them. In fact, he's probably the highlight of the episode for me. He just sort of like comes in, and the energy he's got is very much like my show now, my show. But it doesn't feel entirely like his show, given the ending that the Giggle has. It is his show. He's going to go off, and I'm pretty sure David Tennant's not going to show up in season 1 or 14 or whatever you want to call it. Don't think David Tennant is going to show up as the 14th Doctor in that. It is going to be Ncuti's show, but I don't know. When I'm watching it, knowing that the 14th Doctor is still around, that's going to be harder to get over than I'd like to admit, because I like to think of myself as a very level-headed, reasonable person, not prone to the sort of like fan impulse of like throwing toys out of the pram. So I know that like I'm just going to watch The Church on Ruby Road on Christmas Day, just like every other Doctor Who special around the festive period, and have my thoughts about that episode on its own terms. But I'm intrigued now, given how pretty much game-changing the Giggle is. Is it going to hang around? Is it going to hang over me, this thought that the previous Doctor is still around and hasn't gone anywhere? Because part of the reason we respond so much to Regeneration is that it's the character that changes. And while the Doctor has changed, there is now a new Doctor. It doesn't feel like it's the Doctor. It doesn't feel like that sort of like continuity has happened. Which kind of like, yeah, maybe it's an idea I just need to get used to. Maybe actually after, a couple of weeks, I'll be fine with it. But at the moment, it didn't land for me. And I think that's probably it. I think I'm responding to the fact that it didn't land for me. It's in this episode. Therefore, this episode is not one that I can say I thoroughly enjoyed, like I could with the Star Beast and Wild Blue Yonder. I feel like the Giggle just started really strongly. I thought brilliant. The streak's going to continue. While we might not be getting 60th anniversary specials, we're getting a really strong mini-series of Doctor Who. Lots of great stuff in the Giggle. And then it just doesn't quite land. And I think it's frustration that because it doesn't quite land, like all of the plates that were spinning just all come crashing down towards the end. And the only one left spinning is Ncuti Gatwa. And that gives me hope, obviously, going forward. But I don't much enjoy the feeling that the Giggle left me with, which is again like a mixture. I'm not writing it off. I haven't really. While I've been doing these, while I've been saying my thoughts out loud, and I've been digesting the 60th anniversary specials, I haven't been rating them. And partly because when I'm doing my marathon, I'm rating the stories there, so they will get a rating like years from now. But I think the Giggle I'd probably put as just a 3, and even then like a low 3. I don't think it deserves a 2. There's too much good stuff in there, and obviously Ncuti Gatwa like elevates it in my opinion. But the sort of like how it all falls apart, and I think while I've spent a lot of time now talking about the bigeneration, it's not my biggest problem. It's not my biggest problem with the episode, because it's something different, and it's something that maybe I'll get used to as an idea. Doctor Who does this all the time. Like, we didn't find out that he was from Gallifrey until 1973, 10 years in. The start of the 11th season is when his planet is name dropped for the first time. We didn't find out he was a Time Lord till the end of season 6. That sort of thing. Like, these things will come along occasionally, and fandom can like throw their arms up and be like, no, this is outrageous, this is messing with the fabric of the show. But eventually these sort of things become embraced, except for the half-human thing. And to be honest with you, even though I don't mind the Timeless Child, I really don't think the Timeless Child is going to be embraced by fandom anytime soon either. But I think the bigeneration is something I could get used to it'll just become part of the show's past. It happened that one. So yeah, it's not my biggest problem with the episode. My biggest problem with the episode is how the Toymaker is set up as this like undefeatable thing, and then is defeated like that. I think it feels cheap. It feels cheap, and it feels rushed over to then get to the quiet parking of the 14th Doctor. It's not it's not an episode that ends gracefully, and that's a shame, because it could have been the epic one. It didn't feel like it. A couple of things I haven't mentioned actually. I don't write any notes for this. I just chat. I just splurge my thoughts out without any filter. And occasionally something in my head will go, mention that, and then I'll go off on a tangent. I keep forgetting to. But there are I did enjoy the references to Amy Pond, Clara, and Bill. And it's really nice to see the Doctor with Tennant's face know about those characters and their ultimate fates. I know that some people did, because some people will go, well, didn't mention Yaz, Dan, Graham, or Ryan. Why are we glossing over them? Because they didn't have endings anywhere near as sort of like violent or traumatic as Bill, Clara, and Amy. So I almost like the point that that's making, which is like, yeah, they're essentially fine. I did enjoy another reference to the Flux. It's nice that recent history isn't being ignored, and I guess with the Giggle ending the way it does, even though I don't much care for it, a line has kind of been drawn, and this is like a springboard now into a new era, and with a new paradigm for the show. I just wish some of the I suppose like giddy instincts of Russell T Davies to do this and shake up the show I don't mind shaking up the show, of course not, but shaking up the show in this way is going to take some getting used to. And because it's recent, as in I watched it last night, I'm still not keen on it, which means I don't think I'll ever be keen on it. I'll just eventually at best come to terms with it. And it's his show. He can do what he wants. He's got a proven track record with making it a huge success. I'm just not entirely convinced by the decisions he made in this episode. But we will see what happens going forward. So, an underwhelming ending to the 60th anniversary trilogy. I knew going in it wasn't going to be what I wanted from a 60th anniversary, but I did want it to be a solid conclusion to the trilogy of episodes that we've been watching, and I just don't think it was that either, which has disappointed me. Obviously there's time to dwell on it, recalibrate, repercolate, revisit it, and think, actually, do you know what, I had it all wrong. But for now, my initial thoughts are Starbeast, yeah. Wild Blue Yonder, yeah. The Giggle, oh, about there. Tea's got cold now. As ever, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this disappointed fan talk about being disappointed, then you know how YouTube works. Please do give it a like and share it around. It really does help the channel. Do check out my marathon, which I kind of put a pin in for the last few weeks while the anniversary has been going on, but we'll be coming back with the Web of Fear. And let me know what you thought of the Giggle in the comments below. So if you don't want to miss any future uploads, then please do hit the subscribe button, clang the cloister bell, and I will see you soon.